A French policeman shot by an Islamist gunman when he swapped himself for a hostage in a supermarket siege has been hailed as a hero after the attacker, who killed 3 people in a shooting spree, was shot dead by police. Arnaud Beltrame, a lieutenant colonel in the gendarmerie, was among officers who rushed to the scene when the assailant stormed the store in the southwest town of Trebes, firing on shoppers and staff before taking a hostage. President Emmanuel Macron said on Friday evening that Mr. Beltrame was fighting for his life after reportedly being hit by several bullets and one injury to the throat. Mr. Macron hailed him as a hero. The gunman was identified as 26-year-old Redouane Lakhdem, a petty criminal of Moroccan origin who claimed allegiance to the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL. He opened fire on passengers in a car, killing one of them, then shoot dead another 2 people at the supermarket. The gunman was eventually killed in the police assault after a standoff of more than 3 hours. He reportedly shouted Allahu Akbar as he burst into the Super U store on the outskirts of the picturesque medieval town of around 5,000 inhabitants. Eyewitnesses told French media that Lakhdem demanded the release of Salah Abdeslam, the only surviving member of the 2015 Paris jihadist attacks that killed 130 people, and said he was taking revenge for the international coalition bombing ISIL targets in Syria. He was known by the police for petty crimes. We had monitored him and did not think he had been radicalized, Interior Minister Gerard Collomb told reporters at the scene in Trebes. Lakhdem was described by a neighbor as a pleasant young man who lived with his parents and sisters in a flat in Carcassonne, taking the youngest children to school every day. The incident in Trebes came as France is still on high alert after suffering a string of terror attacks since January 2015. Lakhdem began his shooting spree in his hometown, whose huge medieval castle makes it a tourist hotspot, around 10 a.m. local time when he hijacked a car, shooting dead a passenger and seriously injuring its driver. Then he fired at a group of CRS riot policemen who were jogging near the castle in Carcassonne and wounded one of them. The attacker then drove off towards Trebes, about 5 miles away, where he dumped the hijacked vehicle in the car park of a supermarket before storming into the Super U store, and shooting dead a shop worker and a customer. Other customers and staff fled or hid, with one group hiding themselves in the supermarket's cold store. Christian Guibert was one of them. He described how he heard gunshots when he arrived at the supermarket with his wife and sister-in-law, who hid in the cold room while he called police. He saw the attacker holding a handgun and a knife, screaming Allahu Akbar and ordering people to get on the ground. At one point he saw me and took after me with his knife, Mr. Guibert told Reuters. Then I looked back and he wasn't there anymore and I slipped out of an emergency exit. Police arrived shortly after the start of the siege at around 11 a.m. They managed to get some of the people out, said Interior Minister Collomb, but the attacker kept one woman hostage to use as a human shield. It was then that Mr. Beltrame, the 45-year-old lieutenant colonel, offered to take the woman's place and remained holed up with Lakhdem while negotiations to end the standoff continued. The officer left his telephone on the table, switched on, to allow police surrounding the building in to listen in, said Mr. Collomb. When we heard shots, the GIGN, an elite police force, intervened, the minister said. A team of about a dozen officers entered the building and quickly shot dead the attacker. We got him, one police officer shouted as he re-emerged from the building, according to an eyewitness account by a journalist from the local newspaper La Dépêche. Mr. Beltrame remained in a critical condition on Friday. He saved lives and honored his colleagues and his country, President Macron said of the officer. An officer from the GIGN team was also hurt in the operation to neutralize the gunman. After the cowardly attacks, Theresa May, the Prime Minister, said Britain stands in solidarity with our friends and allies in France, just as they always stand with us. The unnamed police officer who volunteered to swap his place with a hostage managed to leave his phone on so his colleagues outside could hear his conversation with the attacker. French Interior Minister Gerard Collomb praised the heroism of the 45-year-old lieutenant colonel, who suffered a bullet wound during the assault in which the hostage-taker was shot dead by police and is seriously injured. Mr. Collomb said he managed to leave his mobile phone switched on after the swap, establishing a contact with officers outside the supermarket in the standoff. Mr. Kalam said elite French forces stormed the market and killed the gunman after hearing gunshots inside. He did not say how or when the police officer was injured. France Info Radio reported that police at first negotiated with the attacker and persuaded him to agree to swap an unspecified number of hostages, perhaps all of them, for an officer from the GIGN unit present at the scene. The GIGN is an elite tactical unit of the gendarmerie whose operations include hostage rescue, counterterrorism, and the protection of top government officials. 3 p.m. ISIL claims responsibility for France attack. Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, has claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement, but gave no evidence for the claim. 2:59 p.m. Police officer who swapped himself for hostage suffered bullet wound. Interior Minister Gerard Collomb has confirmed that a gendarme who offered himself in exchange for hostages held in the supermarket was injured. He said that the lieutenant colonel suffered a bullet wound during the assault in which the hostage taker was shot dead by police. Attacker named as 26-year-old Ridwan Lakhdam. The man who killed at least 3 people in attacks in southern France was a 26-year-old known for petty crimes and possession of drugs, Interior Minister Gerard Collomb told reporters, adding that he acted alone. Collomb named the attacker as Ridwan Lakhdam and said he was from nearby Carcassonne, where the attacks started. He was known for petty crimes. We had monitored him and thought there was no radicalization, Collomb said. 2:35 p.m. Attacker was radicalized petty criminal under surveillance. The suspect in a supermarket hostage-taking in southern France who killed 3 people is believed to have acted alone, the French Interior Minister has said. He described the unnamed attacker as a radicalized petty criminal under surveillance. Although he was known to authorities, he was not considered an Islamist threat, the minister added. Suspect was pleasant young man who always had a nice word to say. Police have raided the home in Carcassonne of the man suspected of carrying out the supermarket attack in Trebes, Le Parisien newspaper reported. It said police had also raided the homes of his associates and relatives. One neighbor told the newspaper the suspect was a pleasant young man who was calm, friendly, and always had a nice word to say. He reportedly lived in an apartment block with his parents and sisters, and would take the youngest child to school every day. 2:17 p.m. We got him, shouts police officer after attacker is shot dead. A police officer emerged from the supermarket where the hostage taker was holed up and shouted, "We got him, we got him." A journalist from the local La Dépêche newspaper described the scene as police moved in to put an end to the incident. They wrote, "I saw a dozen police from the GIGN, an elite police corps specialized in hostage and terror situations, go inside the Super U supermarket. From the outside you couldn't hear any shots being fired. Very quickly after this assault, ambulances and a helicopter arrived at the car park. Then security forces sent sniffer dogs into the building. I saw a police officer come out, shouting, 'We got him, we got him.'" President Emmanuel Macron, all evidence suggests this is terror attack. French President Emmanuel Macron said all evidence suggests the shootings in southern France are a terrorist attack. Speaking in Brussels, where he is attending an EU summit, Macron offered his full support to everyone involving in the situation. Military officer swapped himself for supermarket hostage. Interior Minister Gerard Collomb confirmed that French police killed the gunman who was holed up in the Super U store. It also emerged that a French military officer took the place of a supermarket hostage. The 45-year-old lieutenant colonel swapped himself in exchange of one of the hostages, a source close to the investigation said. 1:50 p.m. Breaking, police shoot supermarket attacker dead. The suspect in the hostage-taking situation has been shot dead by police, a police union official confirmed. 1:30 p.m. Gunman shot motorist in head before stealing car to drive to supermarket. Police have found a body in bushes in Carcassonne and another man there who suffered bullet wounds is being treated in hospital, local media reported. The gunman is believed to have shot a motorist in the head, and also injured the passenger, before stealing the car to drive to the Trebs supermarket. Bruno Bartosetti, the regional representative of the SGP police union, said the Carcassonne attacker is believed to the same person who has taken hostages in Trebs. Local media report that the Trebs attacker is a Moroccan man who lived in Carcassonne. 1:19 p.m. Customers escape after hiding in freezer room for an hour. One woman who was shopping in the Trebs supermarket when the attacker burst in said she and other customers hid in a freezer room for an hour before managing to escape. A man started shouting and fired a gun several times, the shopper, who was not named, told France Info Radio. I saw a door into a freezer room and I told other people around me to come and take refuge there. There were 10 of us and we stayed there for an hour. There were more shots and we eventually got out through an emergency exit at the back. Another witness said the attacker was armed with a gun, knives, and a hand grenade. Attack comes after string of atrocities in France. The attacker holed up in the supermarket in Trebs has reportedly claimed allegiance to ISIL. If that is confirmed, the incident would be the first deadly jihadist attack in France since last October, when 2 young women were stabbed to death outside the main railway station in Marseille. The incident in Trebs, a picturesque medieval town of around 5,000 inhabitants, come as France is still on high alert after suffering a string of terror attacks since January 2015, when a gun attack by radical Islamists on the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo killed 12 people. The deadliest assault came in November the same year, when attackers claiming allegiance to ISIL killed 130 people in bombings and shootings at bars, restaurants, the Bataclan concert venue and the National Stadium.